All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into some really fascinating ideas about the soul.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. We're looking at this excerpt from Irmgard's book, The Enlightened Spirit of Being.
Ah, yes. I've heard good things.
It's just a small piece from the book, really.
Kind of like a taste.
Exactly. Almost like an invitation to explore her website and other works for more. But even this short excerpt, wow, it's packed with thought-provoking concepts.
I can imagine. Irmgard has this way of getting right to the heart of things.
Doesn't she? It's like she gives you this map, but instead of physical locations, it's pointing you towards different states of being.
That's a great way to put it. A map for the soul's journey.
Speaking of journeys, she introduces this concept of the soul self. What do you think she's getting at there?
Well, it's where things start to get really interesting.
I was thinking the same thing.
You see, she suggests that each of our souls is on its own unique path.
Okay, I'm following so far.
And get this, it's connected to the universe through these things she calls universal cords. It's like, imagine being plugged into this vast cosmic network. That's the kind of connection she's talking about.
That's a powerful image. It reminds me of those intricate mandalas, all those threads weaving together into this beautiful pattern.
Yeah, I see that. It captures that sense of intricate connection. And then there's this idea of the soul being rooted to Earth while simultaneously connected to the universe.
Right.
It suggests a delicate balance between, well, the physical and the spiritual.
It's like we're grounded in the physical world, but our souls are reaching out, constantly evolving. And the language she uses to describe it all, so evocative. Luscious, energetical blast, prosperous way home. It's not your typical philosophical jargon.
It's definitely more poetic. I think that makes it more accessible.
It does. She's speaking to the heart as much as the mind. And one thing that really struck me is she says that while the universe empowers our soul, it never forces it to do anything. It all comes down to free will.
It's a fundamental principle for her, absolutely.
But isn't that a bit of a paradox? I mean, if we're all connected to this universal network and the universe is guiding us, how much free will do we actually have?
That's the question, isn't it? It's like this delicate dance between fate and free will.
I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
Think of it this way. The universe provides the tools, the energy, the opportunities, but it's up to each of us to choose how we use them. It's like being given a set of paints and a blank canvas.
Oh, I like that.
You have the freedom to create whatever you want, but the materials themselves, well, they exist independently of your choices.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like the universe is offering guidance, but not dictating our every move.
Right.
We have the power to choose our path, even if that path takes us in unexpected directions. Which leads us to this next idea Irmgard brings up, the idea of blossoming our soul seeds.
Now, this is where it gets really practical.
I was just thinking that.
She's encouraging us to nurture our inner selves, to cultivate the conditions for our souls to truly bloom.
To blossom.
Yes. And she contrasts this with being stuck in what she calls the meaningless, nobody land of the mind.
Oof. That doesn't sound like a fun place to be.
It's not. She seems to be saying that true fulfillment comes from connecting with something deeper than our thoughts.
So it's not just about thinking our way to enlightenment. It's about feeling it, experiencing it on a deeper level. I think a lot of us get so caught up in the mental chatter, the endless to-do list, the constant information overload. How do we even begin to access that deeper level of being she's talking about?
That's a question we all grapple with. But Irmgard offers us a powerful tool. Intuition. She calls it the voiceover of the universe, this guidance system that's always available if we learn to tune in.
So it's about quieting the mind, listening to that inner knowing.
Exactly. It's often drowned out by the noise of the world.
It's like we all have this inner compass, but sometimes we forget to check it, or we doubt its accuracy. And that brings me to something else that really struck me. She mentions different souls of a different dimensional background, helping us along the way. What did you make of that?
Oh, that's a fascinating idea.
Right?
She doesn't go into a lot of detail, but it opens up this possibility that there are forces at play, maybe beings or energies from other realms that are actively involved in our soul's journey. It's like we have this cosmic support system, a team of unseen allies cheering us on.
Wow. And maybe offering guidance and support in ways we might not even recognize. It's almost as if the universe itself is conspiring to help us on our path to enlightenment. Speaking of enlightenment, what exactly does she mean by that? Is it a destination we reach, or is it more of an ongoing process?
That's where the concept of coming home comes in.
Coming home.
Yeah. She doesn't define enlightenment as this fixed point. It's more like a continuous journey of returning to our true selves, a state of inner peace and authenticity.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
And she emphasizes this journey isn't linear, it's cyclical, with moments of expansion and contraction, clarity and confusion.
So it's not about reaching some final destination. It's about constantly evolving, learning, growing.
Exactly.
And this journey of coming home, it begins within, right?
It does. It's about finding that sense of inner peace and wholeness,
Mm.
regardless of what's happening externally.
She contrasts the limitations of living in the meaningless nobody land of the mind, remember that phrase?
Yes.
With the richness and fulfillment that comes from connecting with our true essence, our soul's purpose. And to do that, she says, we need to learn to fly on our soul wings.
What a powerful image.
It is. It's like she's saying we have this potential to soar above our limitations, to tap into this source of wisdom and guidance.
It's always available to us.
Always.
But we have to tap into it. It's like we
Yeah.
all have these wings, but we forget how to use them.
Or we're afraid to. Afraid to take that leap of faith and trust in our ability to fly. But I think before we get too carried away with this flying metaphor, maybe we should take a pause here
A pause.
and dive deeper into this idea of coming home in part 2 of our deep dive. What do you think?
I'm all for it. There's so much to unpack with that concept. Welcome back to our deep dive into the enlightened spirit of being.
So we were talking about this whole coming home idea.
Right, in the first part.
Sounds lovely, but what does it actually look like, in practice? Where do we even begin?
Well, if we go back to what Irmgard was saying about connecting with our true essence,
Yeah.
maybe coming home starts with his inward journey.
Okay, going within?
She really encourages us to move beyond just the limitations of the mind, to tap into something deeper.
She did seem pretty wary of getting stuck in that meaningless nobody land of the mind, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. Instead of just relying on logic and intellect all the time, maybe coming home means embracing intuition, creativity, those aspects of ourselves that often get stifled by the demands of life,
It's like, what did we love as kids? What really made us feel alive?
Interesting point.
Maybe that's a good place to start, reconnecting with those passions that maybe we've forgotten along the way.
Those early passions can hold clues to our soul's purpose.
It's like coming home to those parts of ourselves.
The parts we buried under all those, what are they, societal expectations? Self-doubt?
Right. And maybe it's also about letting go of the things that don't serve us anymore. Those beliefs, those patterns that hold us back from being our true selves.
Letting go of those limiting beliefs? Absolutely.
Embracing self-acceptance.
Yes. That could be another step in coming home.
But that's, well, easier said than done. How do we actually identify those limiting beliefs and let them go? Sometimes it feels like they're so ingrained we don't even know they're there.
That's where things like mindfulness and self-reflection come in. Now, she doesn't explicitly say that in the excerpt, but they fit perfectly with what she's emphasizing, this connecting with our inner world.
So by cultivating awareness of our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors.
Exactly. We can start to see those patterns, the ones that aren't serving us anymore.
It's like we have to become archaeologists of our own inner world,
I love that analogy.
carefully excavating all those layers.
And just like an archaeologist might uncover some hidden treasure, well, through self-reflection, we might uncover our own treasures. Strengths, talents, desires, things we didn't even know we had.
It's a journey of self-discovery, peeling back the layers to reveal the authentic self that's been there all along.
And maybe that's another part of coming home, returning to a place of wholeness, where we embrace all of ourselves,
The good and the bad.
all of it, acknowledging our strengths and weaknesses, triumphs and failures.
And maybe it's also about recognizing that we're always evolving. Coming home isn't a one-time thing.
Right, it's an ongoing process. Growth, transformation, it never really stops.
Just like she described the soul's journey. Cyclical, right?
Exactly. Coming home might mean returning to ourselves again and again.
Each time, with a deeper understanding, more acceptance. It's like that image of a spiral.
Oh, yeah.
Always moving upward, but also circling back to those core themes and lessons.
Each cycle brings us closer to that inner peace, alignment with our true selves. And to do that, well, we need to listen to our intuition. She calls it the voiceover of the universe, right? That's our guide.
But how do we tell the difference between intuition and just our own, thoughts or desires?
That's the tricky part. It's a question we all ask. Intuition. It often speaks in whispers, not shouts.
Whispers.
Subtle feelings, nudges, not big pronouncements.
So it could be like a gut feeling.
It could be a sudden flash of insight, a sense of knowing, even if you can't logically explain it.
So it's about learning to trust those subtle signals, the flashes of knowing that can get drowned out by everything else going on.
And it takes practice, creating space for those intuitive insights to emerge. Stillness, self-reflection. Now, she doesn't give us specific techniques for strengthening our intuition,
Yeah.
but her emphasis on connecting with our inner world, well, it suggests things like mindfulness and meditation could be really helpful.
Those practices can definitely quiet the mental chatter.
Help us tune in.
It's like clearing the static so we can actually hear the message.
Exactly. And remember, she says we're not alone on this journey.
Huh?
She mentions guides, those different souls from a different dimensional background.
Oh, yeah. It's like we have this whole cosmic support system cheering us on. But I gotta admit, that whole different souls from a different dimension thing, that's a bit mind-boggling.
It does make you think, doesn't it? It stretches our understanding of reality.
It really does.
But if we're open to the possibility, it adds a whole other layer of wonder and mystery to this whole coming home journey.
And maybe it invites us to consider that we're all connected, that we're part of something so much bigger than we can even grasp.
Exactly. Maybe that sense of interconnectedness is another part of coming home. Realizing we're not just isolated individuals, we're part of this grand cosmic tapestry.
Wow. So coming home is not just this inward journey, it's also a journey of connection.
It is connecting with ourselves, with the universe, with other beings.
I'm really starting to see that now, coming home on so many different levels. It's like this multi-dimensional journey with all these layers of meaning.
And remember, she tells us to jump into our wings and learn to fly. Maybe coming home isn't about reaching that final destination.
Maybe it's about the journey itself.
The twists and turns, the challenges, the triumphs.
Trusting our intuition, spreading our wings, soaring into the unknown. But, I think it's time for us to explore how these soul wings can help us navigate the practical stuff, the challenges of everyday life, and how we can connect with our deepest purpose.
I'm excited to delve into that as well. Irmgard gives us a roadmap, I think, for living a more authentic and fulfilling life. And I can't wait to explore those practical applications in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back. It's great to be diving back into this with you.
It is. We've been uncovering so much about coming home from that Irmgard excerpt.
The enlightened spirit of being, right?
That's the one. And it feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's so much depth to it. Last time we were talking about intuition, that inner compass.
Right, guiding us on this journey.
But sometimes I think we're almost afraid to trust that guidance.
That fear is real. It's so easy to stay stuck in our heads, in the logical mind.
Yeah, the part that needs proof needs certainty.
But intuition works differently, doesn't it?
It's more feeling than thinking.
Exactly, and in a world that prizes logic above all else, that can feel risky. But like Irmgard says, intuition is that voiceover of the universe.
Always there if we can tune in.
And sometimes I think it guides us in ways that logic just wouldn't understand.
It's like taking a leap of faith, right?
A leap of faith, trusting that even if we don't get the why right away,
that we're being guided toward what's best for us. Which brings to mind those soul wings again.
that image is so powerful.
It really is. She's encouraging us to embrace the unknown, to fly even when we can't see the landing strip. But what happens when we hit turbulence?
Ah, good question.
Life isn't always smooth sailing. There are going to be challenges. How do we deal with those difficult times and still trust the journey?
Well, Irmgard doesn't directly answer that in this excerpt,
Mhm.
but she talks about the cyclical nature of the soul's journey. And maybe that gives us a clue.
Cycles, like ups and downs.
Exactly. She reminds us that the universe works in cycles: expansion, contraction, light, shadow.
So are those challenges, those rough patches, just part of the natural ebb and flow?
It's like the seasons changing. We don't expect spring all year round, do we?
I guess not.
There's a time for growth and blossoming, and then a time for shedding, retreating inward, getting ready for a new cycle to begin.
So those tough times, the darkness, the uncertainty, maybe they're actually opportunities.
Opportunities to learn, to grow in ways we couldn't have planned for.
Instead of seeing them as setbacks.
We can see them as, well, what are they? Catalysts for transformation.
Yeah, I like that. Moments that force us to dig deep, to find strength we didn't know we had.
It's like our trials are refining our soul's gold.
Making us stronger, more resilient.
And more beautiful for having gone through it. Like kintsugi, have you heard of that?
No, what's that?
It's a Japanese art form. They repair broken pottery with gold.
With gold.
Yeah, so the cracks, the imperfections, they become part of the beauty, part of the object's history. Maybe our soul's journey is like that. The broken places become part of our story. They add depth, richness to who we are.
And maybe, just maybe, those different souls from a different dimension are there to help us through those times. Irmgard mentioned them, remember?
Oh yes, offering guidance, support, even if we don't realize it.
Like a cosmic support system, a team of guardian angels.
Guiding us through the storms, celebrating with us when we reach calm waters.
And even in those challenges, we still have a choice. Irmgard emphasizes that.
Free will, yes.
Yeah.
We can choose how we respond, what we learn from those experiences.
So it's not about avoiding hard times altogether. It's about going through them.
With grace, resilience, trusting that our inner light is still shining, even in the darkness.
It's beautiful the way you put that. And maybe as we keep coming home to ourselves, connecting with that intuition, embracing our soul's purpose,
What happens then?
maybe we just get better at navigating those challenges, more
Yeah.
confident in our ability to, well, fly. This deep dive has been incredible, honestly.
It has.
Irmgard's words are so powerful, they really make you think.
Like seeds planted in our minds, waiting to grow into something amazing.
And as we wrap up here, I hope everyone listening will take these ideas with them.
Keep exploring, keep growing.
Listen to your intuition, embrace your soul's wings, keep coming home to your truest self. Thanks for joining us, everyone. It's been an amazing journey.
Until next time, keep shining your light.